Lads, welcome back to Fusion YGO. It is your boy, Christian, the Havercard Man, back at you with another deck profile. And I know we're taking another look at the meta, but I just cannot refuse this deck. I love it way too much, and I will never stop enjoying it for as long as it's meta, or even if it ends up going back to being Rogue. It's just such a good time, but we'll come back to the Rogue and Jank stuff with you before long. The next one I think I plan on doing is probably going to be Snake Eyes, but we'll see. So we'll just go ahead and get straight into the deck profile today of Rescue Ace. I know this is probably a fairly cookie-cutter box standard list at this point. It's been mostly solved by a lot of people. There's like a couple of different arguments on different ratios that people tend to kind of switch up on, but for the most part, the deck is fairly solved. So I'm just going to show you this today so you guys have a reference point if you're looking on trying to build it yourself, or if you just want to know what a deck list looks like, so that way you can prepare for it when preparing for events and things like that. Starting off, we're playing 3 Rescue Ace Airlifter. This is your single best 1-card combo in the deck. Pretty much all of your 1-card combos end up getting you into this guy so that you can get into your main combo lines. Airlifter, fantastic card. We're down to 2 Rescue Ace Hydrant. There is still an argument to play 3. There's an argument to play 2. With the Diabell Star Engine, you don't really need this guy as much. He's not a 1-card combo on his own. He's just a card that you need to have in the deck, and it's good to have 2 copies of him to be able to rotate around with. We're also playing 2 Rescue Ace Impulse. I was going to try to play 3, but I needed somewhere to make some room, and this was kind of the only cut that I could afford, so I ended up cutting 1 Impulse. Still feels fine, though, basically having a built-in Haveness for the deck that just turbos out a Rescue Ace machine from deck. It allows you to play on your opponent's turn 1, or even if your opponent breaks your board, you can still have a little bit of follow-up to go with. Impulse is just a good card to have, also helps deal with Pearly, being able to activate its first effect to force out a Noir, and then be able to chain itself to summon out like a Turbulence. So, Impulse, just a very good card. We're playing the 1 Rescue Ace Fire Engine. I did skip the Fire Attacker for this deck. The Fire Attacker is a good card, don't get me wrong, but once again, I had to cut down on a couple of things, and I felt like that was one that I could actually end up cutting on, but that is an argument as well between whether you just play the Fire Engine or if you play the 1 Fire Engine, 1 Fire Attacker. If you want your emergencies and your impulses to be more impactful, feel free to play the Fire Attacker. That was just about the only thing I felt I could cut. I'd rather have the engine consistency with the Fire Engine than get maybe a couple draws and a discard off of the Fire Attacker. Don't get me wrong, Fire Attacker is still a good card, and I would love to play it if I could figure out the slot to kill for it, but I just couldn't, so we're just playing Fire Engine. Now we are on Rescue Ace Preventer ×2. People gotten on me a lot before for only playing 1 of these. There is still an argument to be made to only play 1, but at this point in time, I figured playing 2 is plenty fine. So I'll just live with it, and I'll play the 2 copies. It doesn't feel too bad whatsoever. I feel like this is a point in time where having the 2 Preventer is actually a pretty decent consideration. 2 Rescue Ace Turbulence. Once again, you just want to have your enablers in the deck, your ability to be able to play. This is essentially your end game, is getting Turbulence set for pass. You can do other stuff on top of that, but this is your main play line of the deck. This is what gets you your biggest disruptions and also provides you with follow-up. So playing 2 of those is pretty good. It actually is not bad to open in hand as long as you have the rest of the combo. That's it for the Rescue Ace monsters. Now for the spells and traps here, we're playing Triple Emergency. This is also your combo. There have been players that have been cutting this down to 2, and I can definitely understand why. I just like having 3 because if you draw this plus any Rescue Ace monster, it's still full combo. You don't have to just open Airlifter, so this does, to me, help provide some consistency to the deck. Even if you open up like 2 of these, you can use 1 and then set the other one for the next turn. Like it's great for starting your plays, it's great for extending your plays, helps you dodge interaction. I think Emergency is just too good of a card to not play at 3. For 1-ofs here, we are playing 1 Alert and 1 Rescue. Basically, Alert you're trying to use as a Rhoda while you have a Hydrant on field. Rescue, you can use to either reborn one of your own monsters, or you can, if you have Hydrant on field, reborn one of your opponent's monsters out of their graveyard as a quick effect. So this can either be a pseudo disruption, or it can be an extender / follow-up card. And next up, we have 1 Rescue Ace HQ. I used to run 2 of these. I found that 1 is really not too bad. This just helps provide you with follow-up, also gives you an additional normal summon if you need it. This card really just does a lot. HQ, people forget about the 500 attack boost all the time when your opponent controls a monster as well. Absolutely fantastic, and I love that. And the last spell here, it's not a Rescue Ace spell, but we're playing the one Rhoda. This is an extra copy of your Airlifter. So that's it for the spells. We also have one Extinguish, one Contain, and one Reinforce. I know a lot of people have been cutting these out of their deck list, so if you're preparing for this deck, you probably don't need to take this into consideration too much, that most they're going to be siding it. I like playing it because I like to be able to guarantee that I'm going to be able to keep a monster on field. It's more so a defensive play if you have the read that your opponent has the evenly matched. Like, you can set this, and then if they say that they're trying to enter battle phase, you could activate this on one of your monsters just to have it up. So that way you can protect one of your monsters. You get this in the graveyard. So in that way, for follow-up, you can still be able to banish this from the graveyard to reset a spell. So I just like this for follow-up reasons and just like being a precautionary reason in Engine. If you want to go full gas, you just go for these two and then your two spells, but I like getting this, like I said, for protection and follow-up reasons. So a lot of lists, this is not standard to see in the main deck. So that's it for the entire Rescue Ace engine. Now onto the Wanted Diabellstar engine. So we have 3 Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils, pretty standard for the engine. We do have 1 Diabellstar the Black Witch, also pretty standard because Sinful Spoils grabs from deck or graveyard, which is fantastic. So you can just keep looping stuff around and it feels great. And then we're playing 1 Original Sinful Spoils Snake Eye. Last card for the Wanted engine, 1 Jet Synchron. This is like an alternate option. If you already open full combo, like say you open Wanted plus an Airlifter, you can still go through the Wanted line. You just summon a Jet Synchron instead. And I'll show you why this is once we get to the extra deck. This one is kind of up for debate in some decks as well. There are some builds that go for the Cybers line. There's some that go for the Jet Synchron line. I like the Jet Synchron line myself personally. So now for all of the non-engine stuff, we are playing triple Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Box standard card, does a lot in the format, covers a lot of matchups. This is the one card that'll cover everything. We are main decking 3 Droll and Lockbird, personally just because I'm missing a lot of my hand traps and going first and second non-engine. So I'm just maining this as extra coverage because it is a good card into a lot of decks, and I just don't want to be caught blindsided by certain decks. So I figured out of the options that I do have available for non-engine, this is one of the better ones. And we are also playing triple copies of Infinite Impermanence, just a very strong card into the format as well. Last for the non-engine here, we have 2 Triple Tactics Talents and 1 Called by the Grave just to help us be able to play through our opponent's Disruption. You'll notice I'm not playing Prosperity in this build. I do have Pot of Prosperity. I just wasn't sure what to cut to make it happen. I didn't want to really cut into my non-engine too much, and the engine itself already feels pretty streamlined and set in its ways, so I didn't want to cut down too much on that. If you want to play the Prosby, you could honestly still go up, like just put in 2 copies and go up to 42. It wouldn't really hurt that much because it's still going to boost your consistency a lot more. I've been testing it. I haven't really had too many problems with the way the deck is right now. It still seems fairly consistent, so I'm not too worried about it. But, you know, change that to your preferences as needed. Be aware that most Rescue Ace players are going to play Prosperity. All right, for the extra deck here, we're going to start with the Link monsters. We're playing 1 Linkuriboh, 1 Relinquished Anima. Hydrant's the most important card in the deck. You're going to go through him like crazy. Both of these gives you options to play. Linkuriboh's for going first if you're just trying to link climb, or even sometimes going second. Anima just helps you break boards while you're link climbing, so having both options is terrific. Link 2s, we have 1 Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf. There's a lot of lines where you can link into this and then be able to special summon a guy back to his zone, be able to add back something for follow-up. Sunlight Wolf, fantastic card for this deck. We're also playing 1 Hida the Fire Charmer Ablaze and 1 Dark the Dark Charmer. Hida is, I mean, you can just summon back an opponent's Ash. We also have a lot of fire decks coming to play right now. We have the Fire King structure deck coming out, I believe, next week. And we have Snake Eyes on the horizon with Phantom Nightmare. So fire is going to be very popular on top of already having Ash Blossom in the format. So this really just helps you link climb. A lot of dark in the format in general, especially with stuff like SP being around. You have your Linkuriboh, so if you go, you can go through a Hydrant Preventer line to be able to link up through dark, steal your opponent's monsters, and then be able to just link climb even further, especially if you're going second to help break boards. 1 Nightmare Phoenix, because I just kind of had some space I could fill. I figured it's a good card. This deck's biggest problem is back row matchups usually, so having a way to be able to just deal with one on the spot's kind of helpful. We're playing 1 IP Masquerena with the SP Little Knight. If I had the budget, trust me, this would be 2 SPs right here. If I had the budget, that would be 2 SPs right there. But unfortunately, SP Little Knight is now a $110 card. I got my copy while I was $80, so I'm not going to be able to afford another copy. I'm sorry. But to help mitigate that a little bit, we are also playing one Nightmare Unicorn. Extra board breaker, also a Link 3, which is really nice. I've even had it come up a couple of times where I co-link these two and I get the extra draw for Unicorn, which is funny. For Link 4s, we have one Access Code Talker, pairs really well with our Unicorn. Easy 5300 body. One Apollousa, Bow of the Goddess. Sometimes you need it to protect your combos. Sometimes you just have so much gas you can end on this with your normal Rescue Ace plays. It doesn't really come up a whole lot, but I had the flex spot and I figured I might as well try it. Feel free to sub in something else here if you'd like. I like Apollousa, she's a fun card. And the last Link body that we got here is one Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. Like I said in my Orcus Taurus video, I always play this because I don't want to end up dealing with a Towers monster and not having any answer anywhere in my deck list. So Underworld Goddess, fantastic card for helping deal with that. So for the Exceeds, we only have one here. It's our Superstar Slayer Typhon Sky Crisis. Fantastic card, helps break boards once you've already gone through all of your resources and trying to do so. This just kind of helps you be able to stick something at the end of your turn and still feel like you accomplished something. And the last two cards for the extra deck here, we have one Borreload Savage Dragon and one Baronne de Fleur. You can make both of these pretty easy. This is what your Jet Synchron package is for. Like I said, if you open up the Wanted and the Airlifter, you can get into either one of these or both of these, depending on how you play out the turn. Borreload Savage might be a little bit tougher because you do have to establish a Link monster in the graveyard first, but it's still doable. Basically, you get to this through either your Fire Engine and your Jet Synchron or your Dia Bellstar and your Jet Synchron, depending on how you open up. And then Baronne, you get to through Jet Synchron and Turbulence. And of course, Jet Synchron, you can discard a card to special summon it back from the graveyard. So once you summon it off of the Snake Guys, you can make one of these and then discard a card to later make the other one. There's no locks or restrictions to this deck, so it's easy to do. Yeah, pretty solid extra deck. I've been having fun with it. This stuff is not always standard. This is the part that varies the most for Rescue Ace players, depending on what style they wanted to go for. Some people go for the Synchro line. Some people go for the Cybers Terahertz line. Some people just play generic good stuff in their extra deck, just like more generic Link monsters and things like that. So keep an eye out for that. The extra deck is where Rescue Ace is going to vary a lot, especially for Prosperity builds. All right, for the side deck, this one is also kind of incomplete/pending. The post office still hates me. I'm still waiting on my package for my 2 Thrust, and I'm also missing some of my non-engine that I wanted to have in here instead, so I kind of made some substitutions for the time being. This just kind of builds your environment, whether it's for locals, regionals, YCS. Build this stuff to what you expect to see. This is just what I had available, so it's what I'm playing. I have 2 Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion and 2 Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. I know these don't seem too good right now. They don't have the best of coverage. They're more of a situational type thing. The Ghost Ogre I have mostly for like Horus decks. If they get that Kingstark on field and they activate it even once, you just Ghost Ogre it and basically shuts their whole turn off unless they have another one. So that really comes in clutch for that kind of thing. There are some other small cases where a Ghost Ogre can be relevant. Bell is mostly for the lab matchup that helps you have an extra answer to Labyrinth players. That it feels fine. Obviously, there's other stuff I'd rather run there instead, but these are, like I said, they're what I had available because I'm waiting on stuff. Next up here, we are playing Triple Crossout Designator. Helps us play around the Imperms. I don't have Veilers in here, unfortunately. I'll have to grab that one so that way I can play around Imperm Veiler with my Rescue Ace plays, so that way the Turbulence doesn't get stopped. But this deals with a lot of things. This can deal with Ash. This can deal with Imperm. This can even deal with some other non-engine that we have available on the side deck here, which is why this is in the side. For the non-engine in the main deck, I'd rather have more hand traps than more protection plays. So that way, if my board still gets dealt with, I at least have something in hand I know I can deal with my opponent with. So for the rest of the spells, they're all going to be one-ofs here. We have 1 Lightning Storm, Cross Out and Thrust Target, fantastic. We have 1 Sinful Spoils of Subversion Snake Eye. This one might seem a little odd. It's just a free searchable removal off of your Snake Eye engine if you already pull full combo and you don't think that you can make it through the Snake Eye line. Like, this is just free searchable removal that is actually fairly effective. So, I mean, sub this out if you want. I had the space, so I'm testing it out, and I'm going to see how it goes. 1 Change of Heart, another Thrust Target, and last spell card here is another Thrust Target, 1 Harpy's Feather Duster. I like having both of these in tandem because I can play both on the main with Crossout to be able to prevent my board from getting destroyed. Also gives me more odds of seeing a board breaker card. because once again, this deck's biggest matchup problem is back row. So if we're facing into back row, this plus the 2 Thrust is an extra, like, is 4 copies of back row removal on top of the Nightmare Phoenix and all the other removal that we play in our extra deck. Last up here for the traps, we do have one evenly matched, another Thrust and Crossout target. I like having the overlap between those two. It's actually quite nice to have. Also helps us deal with back row and some combo matchups, which is just fantastic. So last here, a D barrier for going first as our final Thrust target. You'll notice this side deck is only 13 cards because once again I'm waiting on my 2 copies of Thrust from the post office. It has currently been 3 weeks. I've been in contact with them and it should be here shortly, but it's just taken forever. So that is it for my Rescue Ace deck profile, guys. Remember that not all of this is completely standard, but at least this way you can get a rough idea for what the deck looks like if you're looking to prepare for this deck at higher tier events. Or if you just want to pick it up and play for yourself, you can definitely use this as a base list to go off of. Feel free to change the non-engine and some ratios around as you enjoy. This is the build that I like going with. I have finally been pilled on doing 2 preventers, so there's that at least. But yeah, feel free to mess around with this deck if you guys haven't already. It's a very good, enjoyable time, and it's a nice meta deck that it requires a decent amount of technical play, but it's really a good time. So that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining. Like I said, next time we will get back to the Rogue and Jank type of decks. I just had to cover this one more time because I love this deck very dearly. So anyways, guys, until next time, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and as always, good fun. Have luck.